Hey guys, Dustin Wynn.
Hey, this is Scott Snyder.
This is Paul Dini.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
And you're listening to Bat Force Radio.
You're listening to Bat Force Radio.
This is Kevin Conroy, the voice of Batman, and you're listening to Bat Force Radio, so stay tuned.
Welcome back to Bat Force Radio. Today, this evening is going to be a very special episode where we get into the our reaction of The Flash. 31 years ago today, June 19th is when we're recording this. 31 years ago today was the last time that a Batman movie starring Michael Keaton was released in theaters. And 31 years later, almost to the day, he is back in the cape and cowl as Batman in The Flash. Let's go around the room. We got Teases in Dirty Jersey.
Leave.
We got Dunk over there on the East Coast.
What up?
We've got Gramps in Dallas, Texas.
Let's get nuts.
We got the Bat Force Times, also Trunks likes. I'll leave it to the imagination of the listener.
Let's get nuts.
We got Robin D. Cross in Canada.
Now, I'm given to understand that we're keeping this all spoiler-free because I haven't seen the movie yet.
Of course.
I think it's going to be a 15-minute episode, so nice in and out real quick.
Actually, what I want to do, I look forward to, by the end of this, I know that your opinions have varied a bit on the movie so far, so I'm looking forward to, by the end of this, each of you can try to convince me whether I should see the movie or kill it with fire.
That's actually an interesting way to go about it. We'll see how that ends up. Like I was saying, gentlemen, 31 years ago today was the last time Keaton was in the cape and cowl.
Goat.
It's been a crazy ride from fans always wanting to see some version of him coming back, more so in a Batman Beyond type universe film, believing that would be great to see him as that kind of Bruce Wayne. This is not what we got. They essentially adapted Flashpoint, the Flashpoint storyline. They switched a few things around. They used it as a way to kind of bridge from the Snyder universe into this new DC universe that they're trying to go for. And it's been crazy. I guess what we could do is let's start with the hype, because this is a bizarre. I can't believe. I still am in shock that we're even talking about this. But as far as hype, like, where did you guys stand when this first came to fruition, when we first started hearing about it? Thoughts initially about Keaton coming back as Batman in a DC universe film?
I predicted it 3 years ago, right? I'm the reason this movie happened, right? I mean, I think it's documented on Bat Force Radio. Some episode in the past where we were just throwing out our wishes to the universe, and I said, it'd be cool if we could get an old Keaton to come back, and bam, you're welcome.
Yeah, so I guess Gramps is really good at manifesting. He's got that new age drip. Probably should start playing the lottery, things like that. I don't think I was excited as much as I was just absolutely shocked that they got him to agree to it, because for the longest time he kept saying, I will never do another Batman movie unless Tim Burton is directing it. And then him and Tim Burton made Dumbo, and during that news cycle and interview cycle, everyone kept throwing the question both at Tim Burton and at Keaton, being like, hey, it's been done before in other films where, there's a lot of these people coming back. Would you ever come back? And Burton kind of like laughed it off, but Keaton was like, never say never, pretty much during that cycle. So everyone's like, whoa, okay. And then essentially at some point, I don't know who pinned him down to get him to say yes, but they got him to say yes. So it's crazy. Who else? Where else were you guys as far as like reacting to the fact that he came back?
I was pretty high at one point, but I feel like we have known for so long now that it kind of wore off on me, because we had that time period where he was going to be in the Batgirl movie that ended up not coming out, and then this, and then there's all the time that you're actually waiting for the movie to actually come around. I feel like I knew too soon, and just lost that meaning. It would have been better as like a surprise, if they could have. It's hard, but if they could have kept it a surprise until close, I think I still would have been there.
It's been so long, like you said, from the time that we got told that Keaton was going to be in this thing to it finally coming out. There was pretty much the promotion for this film had no Ezra Miller anywhere. They didn't let him, and we talked about this too.
Why.
You mentioned the writers' strike. That means that there's no talk shows that are allowing for guests to kind of come on and do their thing. And so there's no opportunity for him to be interviewed on late night talk shows. Keaton hasn't been doing late night talk show appearances. He's also heavily he's filming Beetlejuice right now. There's been nothing as far as the normal hype building. It's all been just trailers and TV spots, and that's it. And in some, what they did actually to really hype this with fans, I think, is they did 1 million free fan screenings before the initial release of this movie. They did so many of those. Yeah.
Is
And
that
you're
why the
weeks ahead.
Is that why the opening weekend numbers were so low?
I think probably because if you're super hyped for this movie and you have a chance to see it for free before it comes out, you're probably going to go and want to try to go see that. So all these people who would have paid their money to go see it, a bunch of them saw it for free. And so a lot of them, think about it, these are people probably oh fuck, this saves me some money. I don't have to take 4 kids to go see this thing and pay 4 times. I can take them for free. So you're missing out on a whole family's worth of what do you call it? Ticket sales.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then you're also thinking in 90 days it could be on Max or whatever other streaming,
Yeah.
That's why I barely go to the movies. The turnaround is so quick.
If I just wait 2 months, it's going to be on HBO Max. So it's all right.
Yeah, but there is something special about seeing a film, especially of this magnitude, on the big screen, especially Keaton's return. I feel like if you're not going to a theater and seeing it on the big screen, you're really cutting yourself short.
Unless you got a dope ass setup.
Well, that's true, but I mean, I don't know if your dope ass setup is about 250 feet wide.
Yeah, that's a pretty dope setup.
One day.
Another thing too to mention about the hype. Obviously, the fan screenings probably killed some of that with ticket sales, but this is alleged. But allegedly, Ezra Miller was arrested several times. I want to say around last summer, for a lot of things that has been going on in their life. And allegedly, I'm not sure. I think I might be mixing up or blurring the reports. You can Google this, see if it's true or not. Allegedly, they found him with the barrel of a gun in a baby's mouth. I don't know if that's true. I'm not. I think I'm mixing up some of the reports. Maybe some words are getting jumbled, but something about a baby sucking on a bullet. This is literally the language in one of the reports. I believe there was a transient. I don't even know if that's appropriate to call the person. Let's call them unhoused. There was an unhoused mother who ran away to their home in Vermont. I think they use they, them pronouns. I'm going to try my best. Ran away to their home in Vermont. And I think that person's family, because they had an infant with them, called in a CPS report. So the cops looking for the baby went to Ezra Miller's home and they found coke, guns. They found the baby hanging out in the living room, and the baby was chewing on a bullet, just chewing on a loose bullet.
What the hell?
Yeah, so that's kind of the tip of the iceberg of what was going on as far as legal issues. At one point, Ezra Miller was in Hawaii, literally going to karaoke bar, just beating the absolute shit out of patrons in karaoke bars, apparently, who were going up there and singing songs they didn't like. So they took it upon themselves to just fucking stomp on their fucking back. Anyways, just all. I think there was a time last year where we kept saying it was day after day, week after week, new Ezra Miller getting arrested reports.
You gotta cancel this.
I was blown away that I'm there's no way. How can they release this movie? I mean, this was on the heels of the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. Johnny Depp lost, his stuff with Disney. Disney Disney fired him. So it's Johnny Depp is a massive star, and he got fired because they don't know, he might have beaten up Amber Heard. So if that happened to Johnny Depp and the pirate stuff, they're sure as shit not going to let this movie come out, even if Keaton's in it. And it was around that time, at some point, when the Keaton appearances in Batgirl were getting a lot of news, and then they canceled that movie. So then it's like, all right, is this movie going to make it to the light of day? There was a lot of that going on last year where people were just
Do you
wondering.
think he got lucky in that? Like, do you think this movie survived because they were shelving Batgirl, and they had to say, "Well, we can't drop both"?
I heard a very interesting rumor. Good buddy Logan Wood, Shane Helms on Instagram, who I'm not sure where they got this, but it makes sense to me. Where it's a distributing deal thing that happened. Batgirl, because Batgirl was going to come out streaming on Max and not in the theaters. That didn't have a certain deal with distribution, whereas The Flash was tied in legally for overseas distribution, so they could not shelve or cancel that movie. Batgirl was a domestic in-house distributing thing, so Warner Brothers had all the free reign to do whatever they wanted. They saw it, they watched it, for whatever reason they didn't like it, they shelved it, and they took the losses as a tax break. And so that's one of the reasons why that movie was shit canned. Flash was not. I don't know how true that is, but it makes a lot of sense to me if that's the case. Meaning that Batgirl was so bad that a Keaton cameo could not save it. So I don't know if that's true either. But as we're recording this, all these leaks of Batgirl stuff are coming out right now with Keaton promos. There's selfies of the directors with Keaton. There's Oh, you know what? I think I put this up here. That'd be helpful, wouldn't it? I thought we were going to talk about this at the end, but here's something that they leaked, is that right here, this is an image of the editing bay. To the top left and to the top right, it is Batgirl. So Batgirl is in a scene. You could see her here, and there's a silhouette of Keaton, and on the right, there's a close-up shot of Keaton in the cowl. Below on that laptop that's the 1989 film with the scene in the bell tower. That's our good friend Carl Newman in the suit right there. But that is so someone's in the editing bay set this up specifically to kind of give nod to show, hey, we're looking at the scene as kind of either inspiration or we're using it as kind of reference. And that's the scene. That's the tower. That's the Gotham bell tower in '89 right there. Another picture that leaked was Batgirl. Looks like there's a sewing machine on a table. Looks like she's taking a break, having a sandwich in the bell tower. This one is another one that came out. This is an alley in Gotham, and it shows Batman and Batgirl talking, and the Batmobile is right here in the foreground. And there's a bunch of others that are coming out still. There's Keaton in a tuxedo in some sort of ballroom scene. There's this scene right here where the directors are taking a selfie video with Keaton in the suit and cowl. So, anyways, interesting to see what might happen with that movie. Let's bring it back to The Flash. We talked about the hype. It's kind of insane that it's even happening. Plot. I don't think we have to go through every huge detail. At this point, you've seen the movie, or at least you know of it. What they essentially did was they took Flashpoint and they changed a couple of things. There's no Superman. There's Supergirl. There's no Thomas Wayne. It's Bruce Wayne, an aged Bruce Wayne as Keaton. And they do a pretty good job in the scene when they introduce Keaton. They do a pretty good job of telling you like what's going on. How could this happen? How is it Keaton's Batman? How is his age different than Batfleck? And he does a really good analogy in a humorous way with a bowl of spaghetti, where he throws it on the table and he shows you, this is the timeline that you've now created. It's not a line, it's just a mess of noodles, and there's going to be parallels where things seem to be almost exactly the same, but then there's intersections that things completely change and kind of smash into each other.
I love that explanation when he gave that, because like you said, he mentioned to them, I was like, you're going to have parts that run together, but then you're going to have parts that crisscross and vary and different, and you've just made a big old mess.
Now, having not seen the movie, in the scene, does he say, "Somebody touch my spaghetti"?
No. It's funny, in this movie, there are nods to other movies. Robin, since you haven't seen it, I won't spoil it.
No,
but
go ahead, man.
Some of them are pretty humorous, and it kind of makes you think, yeah, that kind of would happen if somebody went and changed the past a little bit. I could see how that would happen. And it's not a perfect movie. It's not a perfect plot, but they do a really good job of, kind of putting a bow on the Snyderverse. There are some cameos that I didn't expect. I think we had some discussion in our private chat about some things, and Grump said, well, you don't know. He kind of teased and hinted at something, and I was shocked whenever I actually saw the cameo.
Yeah, don't shy away from the spoilers. Go ahead.
No, I don't want to spoil it for you. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Okay, I'll do it, Robin.
I'm here for it though.
Gal shows up and she saves the day at the intro of the movie, and she does a twirl, and it's okay. It's very much Justice League. The opening scene is Batfleck, Flash, Wonder Woman. It's very reminiscent of Justice League, of that kind of playful banter. There's a scene where Flash saves infants, newborn babies out of a hospital, and it's very humorous. The way they do it is very tongue-in-cheek, very humorous, very playful. It is funny. It is funny. Yeah,
the dog.
Yeah, it's very humorous, and they do. It's well done.
No, it's not.
Well, it's funny. It's there's certain things about it, and it's as we talk about that. Gal shows up at the end of that scene specifically.
So she's the one that shows up and says, "Somebody touch my spaghetti."
Somebody touch somebody touch my rope. That was so weird. They redid the Justice League Lasso of Truth joke.
Yes, that old trope
That's
is
so weird. Like that they chose to do that again.
Is that poking fun at Joss Whedon for recycling jokes from Avengers in Justice League?
I will take that as a reasonable. Thank you for scratching that itch, and I will say, and give them the room and say maybe that's what that was, because that's exactly what it was. What I will say this: when she shows up, she does like a Michael Scott twirl, if you would. And so she twirls into the scene, and both Flash and Batman are like, which was silly. But I was in my seat going, So that Gal Gadot, like she's on the screen, dude, and I'm like, oh my god, she's so fucking gorgeous,
like a unicorn.
Jesus Christ, she's amazing looking, and Flash and Batman are acting that out on the screen. So I thought that was like okay.
I thought that her appearance, spoiler alert, in Shazam! Fury of the Gods was probably going to be the last time that we saw her as Wonder Woman. I was very surprised that we got this in the Flash movie.
Well, she was part of the merchandising towards the Flash movie. Like the Funko Pops. I saw like the back of one, and I was like,
spoilers. She's actually damn Funko.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't know, and then I looked into it, and I was like, oh crap, she's in it. All right, great. Can't wait to see her.
As I watched that scene, I was like, this is probably the last time we're going to see her as Wonder Woman.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I was like you, Gramps. I'm like, no fucking way. They got her in this. They shoehorned her in this. But that was the opening scene, and it sets up essentially what happens, which is he realizes that through all this kind of thing that he's doing with, he's the janitor of the Justice League. He thinks he should be doing more. He has a scene with Iris West, and there's other things that happen. And he basically realizes, I can change things. If I go back and I change one thing, I can keep my dad out of prison. I can keep my mom from dying. I can reset everything. It'll be okay. I don't have to interact with anyone, because he has that scene with Batfleck where Batfleck is like, don't go back. Don't touch anything. They even reference the Academy Award-winning nominated film, The Butterfly Effect, with Ashton Kutcher.
That's right.
Yeah.
That got a nod. And so he decides to...
So did Uber.
Yeah, Uber got a nod. He goes out. So did Stella Artois, the beer that he's drinking in his apartment. He goes and he takes a can of tomatoes out of a shopping basket, or he puts it in. I can't remember what he does with a can of tomatoes to save his mom. And that is what resets and changes all the timeline and everything. That's what screws everything up. And that's what sends Zod, and there's no Justice League now to save, or there's no Superman rather, to save the planet from Zod. So ultimately what's going to happen is no Superman, no Justice League. Zod comes, no one's going to stop him. So during the events of Man of Steel, that universe ends. Zod comes, kills everybody, no more world. it's now done. So he realizes I have to stop that from happening. Let me assemble the Justice League. Goes and he does that. You find Keaton. Intro to Keaton. What did you guys think of Keaton's intro into this movie? Also,
So Barry Allen is from Central City, right?
Mm-hmm.
How fast did they drive to Gotham City?
Which one? Oh, you good point. Well, because did either of them have powers at that point?
I think
no.
I think the young Barry did.
Yeah, young one did.
So maybe young Barry ran. No, but they show up in a taxi.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I was like, "What's going on here?"
Did they have a baby and a gun?
Yeah,
I don't know. That's what I was
faster.
saying. I mean, that was a plot point that I was like, okay, that didn't make any sense. But I'm going with the movie. Just small plot point. But
at the beginning of the movie, it makes it look like there's that scene where it shows you him using his powers and getting to Gotham City from Central City. It looks like to me how much he goes through. It looks like it would be like Chicago to like New York. He goes through so much of all the terrain that he goes through. He goes through like half the country, it looks like.
Well,
in a couple of seconds.
We'll just say, they must have been traveling for a few days then. We'll just go with that.
Spoilers, Robin, when they show up to Wayne Manor, it's the Wayne Manor from '89.
Oh yeah, I knew that from all the trailers and stuff.
They walk through the armory that Vicky Vale and Alex Knox are walking through in the ball scene from '89. So the armory is in there. They walk through the armory. They walk into the dining room, and in the dining room there is Chicago. There's Chicago playing on a record player. Keaton is listening to a record player, and it's 30. What is it? 35 or 64? Is that the name of the song?
25 to 6 or 4 or something like that.
Yeah. So that song is playing. Like he had like a record player playing, and they're like looking for him. And they go into the kitchen, and that's when there's a pot of boiling water, and he jumps at him like a spider monkey, and the song picks up, and it's the background song to Keaton's intro, like of beating Barry Allen's ass. And again, very tongue-in-cheek done, very, very cool done. But that's when he gives them the analogy, like, hey, who are you guys? What's going on? Where are you from? And then Keaton breaks down quantum physics, basically, and time travel to both of the Barrys. Shows you how genius he is, how smart he is, how he already knew all this anyway. And then they ask him, "You want to join us?" And goes very stoically, "Pass." And he just fucking walks away. Just walks away. And like, wait.
I was actually going to say before, too, when we were talking about like the references with the spaghetti, it's kind of like symbolic that he just gives it to Barry and Barry just fucking just inhales it. Because that's kind of symbolic of what really happens.
Making a mess.
Yeah, he just sucks it
fucking makes a mess.
Zero fucks. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that first glimpse of Keaton where he looks very primal, like his hair is crazy.
Like the Big Lebowski.
It just it was unreal, he was very like on all fours and shit. Like that was just amazing, you see it in his eyes, you kind of glare at it and you see that there's Keaton in there. And
so I saw this movie with my friend Levi. Shout out to the Soundscape Crusaders. And he and I have been talking about it the last couple of days, and he made some very good points that I'd like to echo because I agree with him. One, the introduction of this Bruce Wayne is very apparent what he would be like if Gotham no longer needed him and without an Alfred. I mean, he was just a hermit. He kind of resembled it was almost like a nod to Anthony Hopkins from Mask of Zorro. Although in Mask of Zorro he'd been in prison for 20 years. Kind of the same way with this Keaton. He kind of imprisoned himself in Wayne Manor for however long.
It's almost like it's like Castaway Keaton, like he's just been gone for 15, 20 years without civilization, except for the fact that he's got endless bottles of wine and some cardboard pizza that he's eating, but that he's getting delivered a few times a week.
And he's listening to Chicago still.
Yeah. I did notice that the second time around. I noticed the bottles of wine that he's been chugging. So this Keaton doesn't care, or this Batman. Also, I thought there was a leak or there was a plot spoiler that came out. There was a full plot leak where somebody wrote out the entire plot of this movie 8 months ago and put it on Reddit. And I remember reading through it and thinking like, this is so fucking stupid. Some of this stuff and like this, no, there's no way that it was so specific but it was real. That whole plot leak was real. And one of the things that I'd read in it that I thought was so fucking stupid. I'm like, you see Keaton as a bearded old man making spaghetti, like boiling spaghetti, and I'm like, why? And as you watch the movie and as I realize it more, like, what is one of the easiest things to fucking make? Is to just boil spaghetti and pour sauce over it. And it kind of shows where Keaton's at. No Alfred, he doesn't take the time to take care of himself. He doesn't take the time to make himself a meal. He just does whatever's fucking there. And that's
easy.
Spaghetti. He's just throwing it together.
He's a man with no purpose too. Like that's symbolic of what he was saying with Gotham. So
yeah,
he's just living his life in his robe with his one chancleta on, and he's just
yeah, yeah.
He's just taking it easy.
Back to college days.
Yeah, there's also I want to say he says it too, doesn't he? Say like Affleck. There's a lot of parallels between Affleck's Batman and Keaton, at least with script. I think both of them at some point say, "I'm an old man and I'm alone. Like my choices or my decisions have led me to live alone. I'm alone, right?" And so you kind of get that sense with this intro to Keaton. Fast forward to the plot a little bit. Keaton is reluctant at first to help bury the berries. Then essentially, Barry goes into the They break into the Batcave, Robin. They break into the Batcave.
Yeah.
They break into the Batcave and they start. Oh my God, and they're looking around, and because Barry is specifically now looking for Superman, he goes to the Bat computer to search up records of Clark Kent or Kal-El or UFOs that landed in Kansas, at whatever year that was, and then he learns that Keaton has a backdoor into NASA at the Bat computer, which of course he does. And
I just wanted to interject. So canonically, they had to break into the Batcave because there was the absence of the '89 Alfred to let them in.
Yes, and
thank you.
That's a great segue.
I was waiting for Vicky to show up.
Great segue because
there was no Diet Coke. There was nothing.
Yeah. So as Flash Barry is looking up on the computer, young Barry comes over and he goes, look at this stuff, and he's like, there's a bag that laughs. And it's the Joker laughing bag from the end of the '89 film. They take off his body. Little nod to '89 Joker. The Bat computer, aside from like the LCDs are a little updated, but it's the same computer. And one of the things that he does is he realizes like we still need this Batman's help. How can I get to him? And there's a pen with Alfred's name inscribed on it that he notices, and that he looks at the camera that is looking at him. Goes, I know you can hear me. And he goes, you had an Alfred. Our Batman had an Alfred. Just like you said, there's things that are constantly parallel, things that are the same. So he basically uses Alfred to get to Bruce's heart, to kind of tug on his heartstrings, to show him, like, we're all connected. It's all fate. Like, this stuff happens. There's no, like, the things that are parallel make no sense except for fate. And so that's what gets Keaton to come back around. And he comes down, shoot to the Batwing coming down, and he decides, all right, I'll take you to go find Superman. After that, you're on your own. And that's where they take him to the hideout in Siberia. Again, following very closely the plot points of Flashpoint. They get to this Siberian prison where they go underground, and that's where you see an amazing fight scene with Keaton's Batman against those Siberian guards.
I think we've now got probably the two best Batman fight scenes on screen. I mean,
when he's about to drop down and he's like, this is gonna hurt, and he just lays it down, I just got so beyond fucking amped, outside of just seeing him the first time. But
when I saw that scene, I was like, okay, I got what I paid for, man.
Like he made him just really stealth, and I think you saw that the second that they ascended into Siberia, and he was just like, you guys have parachutes. I'm just dropping down.
Where's your parachute?
Yeah. He kind of gives that little smirk.
Yeah,
he was in the zone. He was in the zone for like that whole thing. He was just like there was no getting to him. Nothing worried him at all.
So
like riding a bike for him.
Yeah. So the berries are freaking out.
his wings, the way his cape folds out, it reminded me very much of like Kingdom Come.
Yeah.
So I mean, there was definitely some comic nods throughout this movie. You know, not just Flashpoint.
And also like the way that it was kind of arched, and also like it's kind of this like, you know, it was dodging bullets, very like titanium like. It was just bulletproof, and it was very agile. You know, where it needed to be. So.
Oh yeah.
It was just he was just beyond stealth and fast. You know.
Yeah. I took account of how very early on you see at his intro, oh, he still got it. He's still fucking doing acrobatics. He's still doing leg sweeps. He's still backflipping as an old man. He sits down and he tells the berries quantum physics. Like, oh, he's a genius still. He's still sharp. He gets into the suit and in the Siberian, bunker, he's beating the shit out of the guards. And then what I noticed in that scene is the gadgets. Like he's got his old gadgets. He's got new gadgets. He's got that charge that blows up the elevator. He's got the wings that are bulletproof that he uses to kind of shade the bullets. Just like it's like, damn, dude, like you're seeing things that you didn't see in '89, that you didn't see in Returns. You're seeing him use these things that he has from his belt. All these things that he's taken out and using. The new Batwing. You're getting a shot of like you're getting holes filled in with like what was Keaton up to? What was he doing? What was he up to? And you're kind of seeing that stuff too. We forgot to mention the gallery that he kind of So the gallery in the cave, or I'm sorry, in Wayne Manor, that as Barry is using Alfred to kind of pull on his heartstrings, he goes over, looks at his family pictures, uses the eye thing to kind of open it up. You see the gallery, you see a nice shot of like all the suits that give you like a history of this guy being Batman. And I think if '89 was essentially supposed to be year 2, I guess, of him being Batman. So if '89's year 2, let's say Returns is year 3, and they kind of have that where it's like they got the '66 first, they got the first appearance suit on the left, kind of like a '66 emblem on it with the grapnels as guns on the side. They got another one to the right of that, which is the blue suit, which is the nod to, I think as after the film came out, Joe Quinones released a gallery of artwork that he was commissioned to do for the film, where he says it. I used the Kenner Dark Knight figures as like, if he's gonna have a gallery, I want it to be those figures. And so they did use that as kind of like a reference for some of those figures. I want to say it's
there was the scuba reference, like the deep water figure
on the right. Yeah, there's
Then if you look a little more to the right, there was like I guess it was more of a Gotham by Gaslight. I felt like it was almost Murphy, but it was more Gotham by Gaslight.
Yeah, they named that.
Hood, like that hood.
They named that officially somewhere. I can't remember where I saw it, but yeah, it's his whole gallery. It gives you like, this is a Keaton that's had a history. He's been Batman for a long time. He was Batman for a long time. Look at all the stuff that he had, that he created. Back to the bunker. I figure out it's not Kal-El, it's Kara, and Keaton was all business. He's like, it's not him. Let's go. He's gonna fucking get out of there.
Leave her, dude.
Yeah, yeah. But Barry was like, no, we can't just leave her there. Picks her up, takes her out the bunker. They fight their way to the surface. Once they get to the surface, you see Kara's as she rejuvenates, and you see her power. The Batwing comes up. They take him off back to Wayne Manor, and that's when the other Barry's like, we're fucked. There's no Superman. There's no Kal-El. Kara flies away. He tries like, well, I got to get my powers now. I got to get my powers. Tries to recreate the accident that electrocutes him in the Batcave, just like in Flashpoint. I mean, that's ripped straight from Flashpoint. And at that point, I think Kara sees, she goes and sees what Zod's up to and sees that he's being cruel. Decides to come back and help the Flashes, and as she does that, has a moment with old Barry, and they talk about whatever she's kind of
why'd you help me?
Yeah, the motivation behind that is, you helped me. Why? And he goes, because you needed help, and that's what we do, And so she says, Zod is my people, but that is not who we are. We're a people of hope. We're not a people of war. I'll help you. And so that's how they kind of all team up. And then that's the moment when Keaton comes down and he goes, so what did you say we call ourselves? And he said, the Justice League, which is freaking crazy in this movie. During that scene when he's explaining quantum physics to the Barrys, he says the word, Michael Keaton's Batman says the word Superman. They reference Superman, and then jokingly he's like, he calls himself Superman. Don't you think it's a little on the nose? And it's like, well, you call yourself Batman. He goes, yeah, but I don't call myself Super Batman.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. But yeah, so then Michael Keaton's Batman says the Justice League out loud in the movie, which is insane. And that's when you get the scene where they're all in the cockpit of the Batwing. At first, the design for the Batwing, I was like, no, I'm not really sold on it. It makes sense to me now that if they were basically doing this. The original 89 Batwing is destroyed at the end of 89. So right. I guess like he's going to have to make himself a new one. So this is at some point a new version of the Batwing. And you see this thing in action when it goes up against Zod. that gimbal cockpit, holy shit. It's got a gimbal cockpit that stays in formation while the fucking Batwing barrels around the cockpit. That was so sick. Like when that thing first barrels like that in the film, you could hear in the audience, "Whoo!" Like everyone was like, "Holy shit, that thing's sweet." That was so rad when it starts getting in action like that.
But before you move forward, Flashpoint and Barry had to create a new suit.
Oh my god! Describe that, Dunk.
Oh my god! He just starts running around and he grabs what looks like a Batman '89 suit,
and the music is very epic as he's doing that.
Yeah, and he's legit like cutting up a Batman suit and like making it a Flash suit, and it's like the funniest thing because he's just like he's sawing off the ears. I think I laughed so hard looking at that one part, and I don't know.
They were doing the whole like suit up montage where they're playing that epic suit up music, and you see him be spray painting it, and you're hearing like the music as it's swelling, and it's like he's like making it badass and everything. All of a sudden the music stops, and it's like, and he's sawing off the bat ears, and it's like it ended on that comedic little punch, which was fucking funny.
Spray painted the Flash logo on top of the '89 logo,
and then another
That's kind of cool that they kept that because I think like a year and a half ago where they kind of teased the movie. That was the first imagery that we all saw.
Yeah,
remember that?
Yeah,
I'm glad that they kept that because I forgot about it.
Yeah, there's also the scene in the cockpit where Barry, the real Flash, is wearing his real Flash suit. Young Barry is wearing the homemade
Batman Flash suit.
Yeah, and then at one point, like they're talking, and the talking stops. And young Barry looks over at Flash, and he tries to turn in the cowl, and the fucking cowl goes, and it's in a nod to '89 and or Batman Returns fans with the suit that can't fucking turn, and they do it, and it's fucking hilarious when he does that. Like everyone, even people who hated this movie, people have told me like I fucking love that part. I'm like, yeah, dude, that was for the Keaton heads, like for sure. As you go through the movie, they're battling it out with Zod, and this is when you learn. They go through that Chrono Bowl thing, but you learn throughout the movie there's certain. If you saw the Spider-Verse movie, there's certain canon events that must occur, and there's intersections that occur in every universe that you cannot get beyond them. They happen in every universe. They're gonna happen. You cannot get beyond it. And apparently, in this universe, Zod wins. Zod kills Kara. He defeats that version of the Justice League, and that's it. The world ends on that day. There's no going around it. So as that is coming to fruition, young Barry doesn't want to let it go, and he just tells himself, no, we're going to go back in time, and we're just going to keep trying, and keep trying. And as that happens, you see the destruction they keep creating. They're just creating more and more versions of that world ending, and it's just piling on until finally you see that this creature that kicked Barry out of the Chrono Bowl back in earlier the movie, you realize it's actually Dark Flash. It's young Barry having done this however many times in a row. And now is when you start to see that scene of all the different universes colliding and collapsing onto each other. And this scene, with all the Keaton stuff aside, I would say this is a scene to go see the movie for, just to see that scene where it's all the different iterations of DC films and shows shown to you, even comic stuff shown to you, and it's like it's nods to Christopher Reeve's Superman. It's a nod to big spoilers. That version of Kara, Supergirl. They show you Nicolas Cage fighting a giant spider.
The as spider.
That was
show
a
you
solid,
Adam
solid.
West.
One of the spider.
Adam West.
That was a solid Nicolas Cage scene.
Yeah,
That was like-
I mean that scene right there, I was just like, my eyes were just like glued to the screen. I mean, I was already watching the movie, but I was just like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Because I don't really like the multiverse things, but I like the way that they kind of explain this. I like the way that they showed that, you know, the young entitled Barry who thought that he could just keep redoing things, you know, essentially becomes his own worst enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing so, he makes everything all messed up. And you see these, you know, different universes, how he's just ripping them apart. And I was like, oh, wow. This, not only was it just visually really cool to see, but you could see the minds and the decisions moving forward with how DC and Warner Brothers are going to make, you know, the next universe in DC superheroes, the DCU.
I want to ask a question here because I don't know if this is the scene he was talking about or not, but I'd seen a couple articles talking about how a lot of people were questioning the look of the visual effects in the movie. Mm-hmm. And now, so I wanted to ask you guys, so I'd seen a quote from the director. I believe he goes by Andrew Machete. So in response to the criticism of the look of at least certain scenes in the movie, Andy Machete said, the idea, of course, is we are in the perspective of the Flash. Everything is distorted in terms of lights and textures. We enter this water world, in quotes, which is basically being in Barry's POV. It was part of the design, so if it looks a little weird to you, that was intended. So did the movie look weird?
Yeah, like when things happen in the Speed Force, that's where
it's distorted.
Things look, you know, there are a lot of complaints about the CGI look and stuff like that. And I, seeing it from that point of view, yes, I could see how when things are in the Speed Force moving at real slow motion, they almost had kind of a animation look to them, right? Mm. And it almost, to me, I don't know, it almost seemed like they ran out of money to make this movie.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, that explanation about, you know, these events that you see are happening in the Speed Force where it's got this glowing light and everything is, it's almost like a warped version of reality. That could help explain that. And I mean, was it perfect? No. But, you know, I don't come in here, or I didn't go into the movie expecting it to be Gone with the Wind, you know. I just wanted to be entertained. I wanted to see Michael Keaton, you know, as Batman. It was entertaining.
I can't even criticize your reference because we already call you Grandpa Batman.
Right, you know.
Yeah.
I reference that movie because it's considered one of the greatest of all time, right?
Yeah, I get you. I just had to say it.
It basically, if someone didn't take that explanation, it basically looked like The Rock as the Scorpion King in the second Mummy movie.
Yeah.
When at the third, and you see how bad that CGI was, where it's like, oh my, they didn't even film The Rock doing that. They just completely computer generated every aspect of it. That's kind of what it seemed, you know. And
kind of looked like PlayStation 1.
Yeah. What killed me about that scene is apparently Nicolas Cage did film that. He filmed. Yeah. They filmed him doing that scene, but it doesn't. You couldn't tell if they did or not. You could have said that was completely computer animated, and I would have believed it. Like they didn't film him. Like it just looks like him running around in a computer screen.
I saw that one meme. What did it say? It's like, if you ever wanted to see an AI generated Batman Flash movie, this is it. I was like,
good. That was good.
That's a perfect analogy.
That was good. Yeah, the themes and the idea was great. The visuals about it, like, oh man, they could have done a lot more. They could have put a lot more money into it, but that money all went into the pocket of Keaton. You got to think. So.
I think, although like while you're watching it, you're not really thinking about it. You're still like you're stuck on like, all right, what's the next thing you got to show me here? You know, like I throughout watching the movie, the CGI doesn't even cross my mind because it's like, all right, well, he has to save the baby. There's a baby in a microwave now. Holy hell. Then it's like, oh, now we're looking at all these universes colliding. And it's like, oh, crap, Nicolas Cage. Are they going to show Green Lantern? I asked myself that question. I'm like looking around trying to find that. So I was like, I was more stuck on like, what's the next thing that's going to pop up than like, oh man, the CGI looks horrible. So I was just stuck in the moment of watching the movie. So I didn't even think about it until people mentioned it.
That's a good point. That scene could have been a really good reason to put everything in that scene, and you can't attack it because it's like no matter how cheesy or how camp or how bad the idea was or it was canceled, they put it in because in some universe maybe that would have happened.
Yeah.
So Nicolas Cage Superman, perfect example of it. Like everyone fucking erupted when that came onto the screen. Yeah. So they could have done a what's his name, Deadpool Green Lantern scene, and that probably would have gotten people really going for that. Ryan Reynolds.
Best way I could compare it to, it's almost like sometimes when you read a 4-story arc where sometimes they switch artists for certain pages. That's kind of what it seemed like. They've got the main artist, but then for this scene they switch to this guy for a couple of pages, and then they go back to the main artist. That's kind of what it seemed like.
Yeah.
Also, as that scene is wrapping up, he's realizing he can't get through that cross section of Kara dies, Zod wins, this world ends. During that scene, Kara is asking Zod, like, Zod is like, we need the infant, we need the Kryptonian infant, and Kara says, "Where is Kal-El? What did you do to him?" And Zod says, "We didn't need him. We needed you because you were the one that has the stuff in the DNA. And so we need to harvest your blood." And so she says to him, "Where is Kal-El?" And then Zod goes, "The infant did not survive." And it's like, oh fuck, like they killed Kal-El. And then you realize this James Gunn and the DC, this version of DC literally aborted Henry Cavill's Superman. Like they decided to not have this Henry Cavill Superman, and it's like, damn, like they did him dirty.
Is that why you think they? Well, I mean, because they basically blacked out his face.
They showed the one scene in Justice League where he had,
when he's fighting the Justice League,
and he had no shirt on, and he's like annihilating everyone.
Yeah,
that was clearly a reference, but.
There was also a scene where it was like him kind of...
Oh, when he's fighting the volcano?
Yeah, and they kind of had his face blocked out. I mean, I wonder if they did that one because they didn't... I've heard... I've heard two different things. I've heard that they paid him for that scene, but then decided to cut it.
We'll get to the end. They filmed him for this movie.
Okay.
But they filmed him in between... him being announced to come back in Shazam, and then him working with whomever before James Gunn decided to move on from him. We'll get to that at the end. But anyways, so you realize that this world has to end that way. Barry then decides to go back and allow his mother to die, and that essentially happens, and it resets everything back to normal, except that he does a little clever thing with a can of tomatoes to allow for his father then to be visible on a video and give him an alibi to no longer have to be in prison. So at least he gets his dad back. And you follow to the end a little bit more of this film. And then this is something that everyone's been talking about now is the end of the film. He comes out of the courthouse steps and Bruce Wayne calls him. He's like, "Hey, I heard good news. I'm going to come see you in a minute." So, okay. So he's all excited to see what he thinks is Batfleck, his best friend, coming back. Then the car pulls up. You see a shot of the foot. The reporters crowd around. All of a sudden, you see Barry go, "Who the fuck is that?" And George Clooney, Bruce Wayne, walks through the crowd and he goes, "Hey, Barry." And it's literally fucking George Clooney, Bruce Wayne, George Clooney, at the end of this film as Batman, now in this universe.
Everyone lost their shit when that happened.
I did too, man. It was funny.
It's like, what the fuck? And
I didn't see that coming.
That's how the movie fucking ends. The movie ends like that. And then they put a post-credit scene in the middle of the credits, and it's a drunk Arthur Curry coming out of a bar, and Barry is trying to explain to him everything that happened and trying to explain how there's all these different versions of us out there, and they're talking about, and all of a sudden he just falls into a fucking puddle, and he's like, dude, my apartment's right here. You sleep in my apartment. He goes, my apartment's right here. And he just like slapping the puddle. He's gonna sleep in the puddle tonight.
I hope that's all we. I hope that's the last we see of that Aquaman.
Well, no, because we got another movie coming out.
They don't even need to make that now.
It's already made, isn't it?
Yeah, it's done.
We don't need to see that. No, who asked for that?
So now that we get to the end,
I don't know. That was like one of the few successful DC movies of the past number of years.
And I got numbers
to do $1 billion. Yeah,
we got numbers to talk about too, because I wrote that down because I think that has a lot. That's something to be said now that the Flash is out too. But two things: the original ending was filmed with Keaton. It was supposed to be Keaton at the courthouse steps, and Kara shows up at the end also. They filmed that. They decided not to show it because then at some point they decided to cut the Batgirl movie and to cut any future of Keaton being the future Batman out. So that's no longer there. They also filmed an ending with Gal Gadot, with Kara, and with Henry Cavill showing up at the end.
Jesus.
And that was before they decided to not go forward with Henry Cavill. They cut that. And this is the ending they decided to roll with, which was George Clooney, Batman at the end. Yes, was it funny? Yes, it was funny. But to what end? It was literally just a gag. I don't think they're going to have George Clooney come back to be the DCU's Batman. I think they just did a gag.
No.
Because they were like, how do we pivot away from Keaton? How do we pivot away from that ending? We have to have something. Let's just do this for a laugh. So they kind of threw that in there. Also, that being
It's
said,
a great surprise. I just feel like that there's just, this is the end to everything. And now we have an understanding of different universes and the start of everything new.
So 31 years after Batman Returns, you got Keaton back in a movie. Another thing that, like, he, in that Kryptonian scene, he goes up, he fucking goes out like a fucking boss, by the way, straps a bunch of fucking bombs to that 10-foot Kryptonian, and the Kryptonian ragdolls his ass and fucking crushes him on the floor. He's bleeding internally, but he still stands up and says, fuck you. And the bombs are going off. Finally, there's a bomb that goes off on the back of the Kryptonian's head, knocks him the fuck over. And then he says something that parallels Batfleck at the beginning of the movie. Barry comes over, he's trying to take the suit off to help him. And then Batman says, Michael Keaton's Batman says what Affleck said. At the beginning of the movie, Barry goes, you want to hang out? I'm still hungry. Do you want to hang out? And he says, not this time, kid. Maybe some other time. So this Batman, as he's dying, Keaton Batman, Barry's trying to save him. And Keaton looks at him and goes, not this time, kid. Maybe some other time. And mirrors that same statement back to Barry. And so that's how this, what struck me was we never saw.
Hold on. He says, Bruce, I could bring you back. And Keaton says, you already did, kid.
Oh, that's right.
You already did. Yeah. So
you already did, kid.
But it is in the same vein. So
yeah. And what struck me was, I don't know how many times we've seen Batman actually die in live action films, and certainly we never saw Keaton's Batman die. But Keaton's Batman dies in this movie, and that's it. He does not come back. There is no post credits. There is no ending.
He dies
scene
twice.
Right.
He dies twice.
And and I liked that because it gave him a good death.
Did give him a good death.
But it also easily proves that he could be reprised in some way if they had to, because one of my friends was telling me, he's like, oh, I didn't see the movie. I can't believe they killed Keaton. I said, in theory they killed him twice, but you just never know. I don't think they completely put a bow on it, in my opinion.
So that being said, even before I think I saw the fan screening, which was like 3 weeks ago, they already came out with an article saying that a script for The Flash 2 is being worked on. Kara is in it. Keaton's Batman is in it. And I remember being like, motherfucker, are you spoiling the movie for me already? Like, Jesus Christ. And then I'm like, well, it's Flashpoint. Of course, they could just do whatever they want to do that. And, okay, so at that time, they were working on that film. We'll get to box office in a second. Let's blow this up. 31 years later, you got this Batman in this Flash movie. After you guys came out of the theater, after all the hype, after all the talk, I mean, there's not just hype. Like this movie, it's almost like, what is this movie? Like they're trying to reset the Snyderverse and trying to go into a new direction. But even this is an old version of that. They've already reset this, and they're going in a completely different version. So there's going to be a younger Batman. There's going to be a younger Superman. There's going to be a different DCU. This technically is not. It's not really connected to that because, yes, Flash is there. Yes, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman is there. Yes, Arthur. What's his name? Khal Drogo's Aquaman is in it. Batfleck's in it. But all that stuff is still like there's no plans for a new Wonder Woman with Gal Gadot in it. They're waiting for that Aquaman movie to come out. It's still up in the air if they're going to bring Ezra Miller back for a sequel. They say that they liked his performance, so they would if they could. It's just so bizarre that it's like all this hype, all this uncertainty with what this is going to lead to. Anyways, movie comes out. It's all said and done. Dust is settled. Where do you guys put this as far as like, was this an entertaining film? Did it do anything for you? Did it fulfill anything for you? Where do you guys sit with it?
I'll say that, I was not a fan of Ezra Miller's Flash in Justice League. Now, this story puts a whole new light on his character and kind of why he's in the present time kind of a quirky guy. And, he did a fantastic job showing how that Barry Allen would be if his mother was alive, if he lived, with two parents. He was an entitled, lone child that was given everything. He was loved his entire life by his parents, and he could do whatever he wanted. And the two personalities were actually very funny to watch, going back and forth with each other. Here's, present day Barry Allen. He's super serious because he knows what's going to happen. He's got to find it to make it right. And then here you got college age 19 stoner Barry Allen. It's just a total goofball. So kudos to Ezra Miller. I think he did a good job and showed, his flexibility and diversity in his acting skills. I also liked the fact that this movie showed the tragedy of each character. It showed the tragedy of the Flash, losing not just his mother, but also his father. And all he's trying to do is make things right. He's got good intentions the whole time, but he could just never make things right. And then you've got the tragedy of, Batman that just keeps coming up. And then you've got the tragedy of Kara, and you've got the tragedy of the world, under Zod's control. It's a fun movie, but it's also a tragedy at the same time.
It's also a DC movie.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said, Gramps, about they pit young Flash versus present day Flash, and you see, yes, like this Flash went through tragedy, and because of the tragedy that he's still going through, that he's still experiencing as a member of the Justice League, being jaded a little bit by the tragedies of the world, he is a little more stoic, and he is a little more reserved and a little more serious, although he has quips and he's funny. The younger Flash, like you say, Gramps, is this happy-go-lucky, like he's bouncing off the walls. He's like silly, like nothing seems to get him down. He's constantly bright and positive, and older Flash has to fucking smack him around to be like, dude, just fucking stop it,
Bro,
And
chill.
so, yeah.
But there's also that scene in the Batcave where Keaton talks to him, and he also has that perspective. He said he wouldn't change anything about what happened to his parents because without that wouldn't have made him the person that he is today. So there's that same message that's just correlating through Keaton as well, with the other Barry, which is important. That's the whole point of the movie. Like, no matter what, our tragedies make us who we are, our scars, and no matter how many times you may want to go back and change something, you completely change who you are from the get-go and maybe your surroundings, So it was really a mix of just like you said, it was very funny, but it did get very serious. But it had a strong message that was consistent throughout the course of the movie and through other parallels of the universes. So to me, that kind of stuck with me. Like he knew what he had to do at the end. Like no matter what, he had to be selfless and go back and make the ultimate sacrifice.
Yeah.
So this movie really stuck with me. I saw it twice, and I'd like to see it at least one more time in the theater. But it was a Mod Podge. It was just a lot of ups and downs, and I think it was reflective of the chaos. But it had this consistent theme that I thought was really powerful in the storytelling of it.
What stuck with you, Dunk?
Oh man, I don't know what I didn't do in this movie. I laughed. I almost cried. I freaking.
Come on, you cried.
Hell yeah, I did.
Yeah, I know
that
you.
mother scene at the end.
Jesus,
oh man, yeah, that's like.
His mom's so fine, by the way.
I thought that was like an older Sofia Vergara or something.
She looks familiar from something. Let me look her up real quick. Go on, Dunk.
Probably like a novella.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
Like all of a sudden the Flash is Hispanic, I think, right? Like he's like
on the mom
half
side,
half Hispanic, half Jewish.
Yeah.
Yeah, what a combo. Overall, it was very entertaining. A lot of good laughs, nostalgia kicked, especially when you hear like the Back to the Future jokes or references.
Mm-hmm.
With the college kids arguing on who's Marty McFly. I think Ezra Miller did an amazing job with both his characters. Right, when he got his powers at the Flashpoint Flash. He was all over the place, and he created all this chaos. And there was a lot of something you're not used to in most DC movies is like the laughter portion of it, despite how dark or like how dramatic a lot of DC stories are. There was a lot more laughing in this, but I think I think overall it was a great movie. The cameos is great. Ezra Miller, as much as we want to hate him, I think he did a great job. I don't know. It surpassed any expectations I had. I didn't have any. I was just happy there's another Batman movie.
Yeah. This was a mixed bag for me. As a Keaton fan, by the way, going really back to Barry's mom is played by Maribel Verdú, and holy shit, I just realized where I know her from a little movie from 2001, a Mexican film called Y Tu Mamá También. If you guys have ever seen, Jesus fuck, that's the main lady. She's the main character in that, or the main female character in that movie. Really with Gael Garcia Bernal and Diego Luna, which made them both stars. It was a Mexican movie that catapulted them to kind of young stardom to then take over movies over here now. Gee, that's her. Holy shit! No wonder I was like, why am I in love with this woman? because I fell in love with her 20 years ago in that movie. Jesus Christ!
She's so hot. In the Tom multiverse, he's falling in love with her again.
Holy shit! I love her now even more.
It's one of those fixed points in time that has to happen.
Yeah. Jesus,
spaghetti's getting messy.
God. He just keeps falling in love with her.
Keep your meatballs out of the spaghetti.
Yeah, keep my Yeti blue ball out of it.
Somebody touch my spaghetti.
As a Keaton fan, this was just like, I'm still in shock that this movie exists, that it was made. I was really worried initially going through that that this, like, are they gonna just use him as some inflated nostalgia trick to get people in the seats? Did they? Absolutely they did. Did it work? It did on me so hard. I've seen this movie twice now, all because of Keaton. He looks so fucking awesome. The suit has grown on me. Holy fucking shit, that Batwing is so badass, dude. That gimbal roll is so sick. That being said, as a Keaton lover, I know what they did to me. They groomed me from the beginning, and it worked. So as a Keaton fan, I gave this movie 7 out of 10. All 7 is all Keaton. I mean, I couldn't get enough of him. I was like, man, that's fucking it. Like at the end, like he doesn't come back. He's just out of the movie and gone. And it's almost like it's better to burn out bright, I guess, is kind of what happened in this film with Keaton. So I do hear what Gramps is saying. Yeah, it's a good death. I'm also a Toxic Snyder fan, bro. Okay, so as
a combo,
as a Toxic Snyder fan, This movie is almost like spitting in the face of Snyder. So either you love that it does that because you hate Snyder, or you're a toxic Snyder fan, bro, like myself, and it drives you insane because the Justice League parts of it are Justice League. Like this is Justice League, and it's silly, it's happy-go-lucky, it's bright, it's jokes, it's lasso of truth tropes.
Why is Batman out during the day is what I want to know.
Another huge thing that bugged me. Both, I mean, with Keaton too, but it's Keaton, so all right, let it go.
Well, they wanted to do a daytime scene in '89, but the suit looked like shit in the daylight, so they didn't.
Yeah.
So now they could.
As a toxic Snyder bro, I now have another reason to champion #fire James Gunn, who had nothing to do with this movie, by the way. I love that. If you go on Twitter, people are saying, people are using the Flash as like, ha ha ha, this movie's tanking, fire James Gunn. It's like, dude, he literally like didn't hop on until this movie was already done. So he like all he did was like, yeah, you can release it. That's all he did. But as a toxic Snyder fan, bro, part of me wants this movie to burn. But as a Snyder head, I love this. As a Keaton head, I love all the Keaton stuff. He looks so awesome. He's so bad. I feel like they did a good job. They handled him very delicately. I feel like they didn't fucking take his corpse and this bloated corpse and like put it out, for display. I think he was handled very respectfully. It's great. I think subjectively this movie is not bad. Subjectively, like I think everyone is saying it. Like does it have its flaws? Yeah, of course it does. Is it terrible? No, not by a long shot. Like I think if you take anybody off the street, and you're like, hey, you guys want to come watch The Flash? They'll probably sit through this movie and be like, whoa, that was cool. It's like, yeah, it was cool. And so I think subjectively, I think the popcorn score I think is like a 92 or something. The fan score is really, really high. The critic score is around a 7, so it's kind of dragging that down. Anyways, what does it say for the future? Because, dude, this movie is not doing well. First weekend box office numbers, this movie made 10 million less than Black Adam. This movie right now is sitting at
like you said,
55 million.
Practically gave it away for 3 weeks.
Yeah, they
leading up to the release.
That was stupid.
And then,
there was tons of people that we saw on Instagram that I think by the time we saw it for the first time, there was people that saw it twice already. And I'm just like, they were not even linked to the industry, or they just had opportunities. Which was awesome because as a fan and someone that makes product, I like when fans get to see it earlier because it makes it more authentic. But like you said, if they gave it away to 1 million fans, you're also in an economy where people are price conscious, and these things, to see a movie, you want to bring your family. That's $100, and you haven't even had popcorn yet. You know what I mean? Like $20, whatever tier and version you see at the theater, it's going to cost you an arm and a leg. So if someone could kind of skimp and then wait, they're going to see it. I think fans like us, we may see it a few times in the theater because we really want to see Keaton again on the big screen. But the average Joe, the average American family, I think is going to be patient and wait. And that's why the numbers are not converting. I mean, the numbers are nowhere close to what I even thought it would be. 55 million. That would, that's seen as a failure, a cinematic failure.
Well, have we got international numbers yet? Because
not yet. And let's track it to what Black Adam was at the end. After it was all said and done, Black Adam came out at like 60 something million opening weekend, and it ended at 168 domestic, 393 million total. So it still has a way to go to even beat Black Adam. Compared to the movie before that did really well, the Batman ended at 369 million domestic, 770 million internationally. So that, and the last two movies that did really well at the box office for DC was Joker 2019, which was 335 million domestically, 1.1 billion overall. and then The Batman, which was 369 million domestically, 770 million all in all. And those were smaller budgets. Those were very specific to one character, maybe a couple of side characters. They were not the big superhero movies that we keep seeing.
And now you have to point out too, the Batman came out as theaters were just getting back in swing. Like I went to see that. I think it was the fan preview night thing, and over here in Canada anyway, it was the first night that the theater was back to full capacity.
Yeah, since the Batman, the only other two DC movies that have come out have been Black Adam and Shazam Returns, Fury of the Gods, which Shazam did so bad, dude. Yeah, Shazam at the end of everything, 57 million domestic, 133 million internationally. That is god awful. The Flash is going to beat that easily.
I didn't even realize Shazam was out already.
Shazam, yeah, dude, real bad.
It's on HBO Max. That's when I watched it,
dude. So think of how bad the Flash is. Think of how bad the Flash is doing with Keaton. Keaton's in this movie, and Keaton can't save that box office. Blue Beetle is up next. They are going to get destroyed.
It's tough because you have a bunch of people who are canceling Ezra Miller, and they're just for his stuff alone. No, they're not going to go watch this movie. And there's a huge Reddit amount of people we're not going to go watch it. Ezra Miller's a jerk.
Well, there's that, and there's also the toxic Snyder fans who are using this movie as a way to say fuck you to the new DC stuff. Yeah. Fire James Gunn. Being a very proud member of that community and seeing what they're doing, there's people on Twitter right now that are absolutely loving the fact that this movie is eating it at the box office. To your point, Dunk, I want to read you a little something. This is finger licking good. Okay, Dunk, you might have seen this going around. This is, I don't know them. They're a cosplayer. I didn't follow them, but I know that they have a big following. And this cosplayer, I guess, likes to dress up as, or they have been dressing up as Sasha Calle, or whatever, Supergirl. So that's referencing this. This is a post. This is a story. I won't say their name, but this is a story that they put up that I read, and I wish I could write something this good. So here goes. I keep seeing, this was on the release of The Flash. I keep seeing so many Flash events. I guess they have to do lots of marketing for damage control thanks to Ezra. Honestly, I wish I was able to watch it because of Sasha, but throughout the first 10 minutes, I walked out. Call me sensitive, but if you don't want a spoiler, stop reading now. I can't stand with Ezra and all the nasty things he does personally. The first scene in The Flash, there's an explosion in a hospital with babies and he was to save them from falling. Cool, yeah, but why in the world would the writers find it remotely okay to put a baby in the microwave? And even though it's not plugged in, you hear a ding, and he takes the baby out midair and continues on. Yes, this is a trigger as a mom because of conspiracies in Hollywood where they drink baby's blood after massive scare tactics and trauma. This to me is just very distasteful, and I had to walk out. I'm not going to try to even give it another chance, even though the rest of the cast is heart eye emoji. And I was so excited for it. Well, for those who enjoyed the film, prayer hands, cool. But this mama was like, nope. I want to marry that person. I want to marry that person. I want to have children with them. They are a patriot. They are. I love it. I couldn't pray. I couldn't pray to write something that good. I love it. Anyways, I'm really interested to know how many people are using. They're kind of doing that thing where I can't support Ezra. I'm not going to watch this movie, right? I joked about that leading up to this movie, saying how dare you support a groomer? How dare you support an abuser? And I was tongue in cheek because the stuff that he was doing was he was crazy. This guy's obviously not well. He should be seeing a psychiatrist. He should be in therapy. His behavior is erratic. He's probably on drugs, So it's sad to see. And yes, people are literally in danger of being in his wake. But am I not going to go see Keaton? Dude, put 20 babies in a microwave and turn that thing on. I will put the baby in the microwave if you're going to tell me Keaton's in this movie. I'm not going to
real babies.
Yeah, and the thing too is, so I find it funny where people. I'm not gonna say funny. I find it very interesting where people are like, I refuse to watch this movie. I will not support Ezra Miller. Totally down if that's how you feel, but you're literally typing that on a cell phone that's battery was mined in like Africa, halfway around the world, probably by children, and probably a couple of kids lost their lives to it. So like, I hear you, but
we're all selective, right? We're all selective where our arguments are.
It's like,
it's selective outrage.
Yeah, it's like I get it, but enjoy it. Keaton's there. Come on, just go watch Keaton. I'll say that. Like, if you give me a Keaton cut, I'll watch that all day.
And I mean, like, as far as things like that go, I haven't seen the scene, so I don't know exactly how it plays out, what the tone is, but also it's not a documentary. It didn't really happen.
A brutal Hollywood elite behind the expose. So the fan screen that we went to, I was with Legends of Lego Batman, and we were watching this movie, right? And I couldn't see him, but I could hear someone maniacally laughing at that scene where Ezra is saving these babies who are in a lot of danger. And Legend goes, "The guy sitting in front of us is laughing his fucking ass off at babies almost dying." And I was like, "Oh my god, he is." So yeah,
I had a guy in front of me vaping. I wanted to kick his fucking head.
What?
Yeah.
In the theater?
Yeah.
That's a fire hazard. There's also another scene in this movie where young Ezra strips butt naked and is running around naked, as if he was on the Hawaiian Islands beating up everybody in a karaoke bar. So, yeah. But all that was filmed before any of that shit happened. Like they were like in post when he was going crazy on the Hawaiian Islands. So it's not like they filmed it out. Oh, wouldn't it be funny if we wrote in that stuff you were doing? It's like that's not what they did.
I was thinking before too. It's like, regardless of Ezra Miller, this movie does have to happen if they're going to move on to the next phase. It's just that's their excuse to kind of reset the universe, just like it did in the comics. Unless it was just pure coincidence, but obviously, like, it's unfortunately this is a love letter and goodbye to the past. 2013 era when we first saw the Snyder Superman. And that's just their reset, unfortunately. And we would like to think that, like you said before, like the two movies that were ultra successful were Elseworld movies, that maybe there is a little chance that we could get Keaton to come back or some other thread from that universe to kind of still live on the side, because they can easily do that. But regardless, it has to happen because they're not going to be able to move forward without this movie, which is ironic because obviously Ezra Miller, went on a rampage. But
they still said
all this
that
does is explain how in the Joker verse, Joker is going to be about 85 years old by the time Batman comes around with Joaquin Phoenix.
Unless a different Joker comes, I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
Let's do
He starts grooming one.
Let's do our scores real quick. Dunk, what do you give this out of? Let me see here. How many?
How many babies in microwaves?
10 cons out of how many cons out of the year do you give this movie? 10 cons out of the year.
Man.
1 con out of the year.
So before I give my rating, right, it's going to be really high. Reason being, when I go watch these
You're
movies,
really high.
Tall guys, not big. I wish, like, I go watch these movies and it's like 8-year-old me sitting there just enjoying the movie. So 8-year-old me watched this, pumped the shit. I walked out and I was like, I can't wait to watch it again. I can't wait to own the special edition Blu-ray, all this nonsense. So out of 10, I give it a 9.
Ooh,
I just pictured 8-year-old Dunk, all 6'2" of him sitting and watching.
Beautiful. Teases, what do you give this?
So my first viewing, I was at 7.5. Second viewing, easy 8. My next viewing could potentially go a little higher, but I think I'm at a solid 8.
Okay.
No, I didn't have a lot of gripes. obviously, CGI was a lot of concerns for people, but I just, I spoke to Dave over the weekend about it too. Like that stuff just didn't distract me. It was just about, it was just a storytelling element. Him just kind of going in and out of the multiverses, but seeing Keaton again, I never thought in my entire life that I'd get to see him on the big screen like that. So the first time seeing him, it got me kind of emotional for a second. I was like, damn, I can't believe like he's there. Like it felt really authentic and organic to see him in that suit. And it was a different side of Keaton. He was very stealthy and quick. I just want to see another iteration of him, maybe one more time. But there's very little, is very Ezra Miller killed it. I laughed. I spent 3/4 of the movie fucking laughing my ass off. So many parts were it was just a fun movie. But it also took you to these emotional parts, like Dave was saying before, like the last scene with his mom, like that shit sticks with you. You're like, man, you're like, damn, it makes you like appreciate, like that version of Ezra Miller, or the Flash rather. He was very empathetic, and it makes you think about everything, so it's like just a lot of peaks and valleys, and it was just a good storytelling element. And Andy Muschietti, he was first on the scene doing horror movies, and now he's on to superhero films, and it really just showed his range. The fact that they're saying that he's gonna direct the next Batman movie, The Brave and the Bold. So that's really an amazing move for him, because he's going to be able to kind of show some range and just be around and kind of help cultivate WB, because I think Warner Brothers just needs that strong staple, So it was great. I think I'm going to see it one more time in the theaters for sure.
Same.
Beautiful. I give it I still I think I stand with a 7 out of 10 from the first viewing. I saw it again, 7 out of 10. And yeah, like all 7, I would say are Keaton. I'm blown away at how well I feel like they handled Keaton as Batman. There was just enough cheese. It was as much cheese as 89 Returns. Wasn't too much. Charming. I think it was done well. The -3 is that's the Snyder bro cursed blood running through my vein. I will, for those 3, I will find 3 studio executives to haunt for the rest of their lives for putting this movie out. But yeah, subjectively, I think it was, what, to you guys' point with Ezra Miller, think about all that crazy shit that he was doing. Think about how he was unraveling before our eyes. Like, the kid can pull it together and act. Like, that was not like a crazy person on the screen. That was like a good actor. That was a good performance for someone that is like that, in their personal life, to then be able to go and give that kind of performance. Like, dude, it's like, that's extreme. So I gotta give it up to him for that.
Someone goes to Hawaii and fucking GTA 5 the shit. Like,
you know what? He did so well, and he was holding it together for so long. He had to go to Hawaii and beat the absolute shit out of some noisy tourists.
There's going to be a new hashtag: Ezra Miller gives beating.
Yeah. Trunks likes the BE. I don't know if you can hear this. He's probably. Oh, here we go. What would you give it out of 10?
It's kind of split. So.
Oh shit.
If you guys, I don't know if any of you guys know, but I've actually been retired from live action superhero movies for at least 4 years. I don't watch any live action superhero movie that's not Batman related. I'm tired of them. I don't know. They kind of,
the fatigue.
They mold into one of the just same old turkey sandwich. But like the interview recently with Dennis Rodman, when he puts the LeBron Jordan thing to bed, he goes, "Don't you talk about the GOAT that way?" And the GOAT was back, so I had to see the GOAT, Keaton. And before going into the movie, I thought to myself, I hope it's like 2.5. I was like, I hope I'm not just sitting there kind of bored waiting for the next Keaton shot to come in, But I went in, and I will admit that I was very entertained for the duration of the film.
Wow.
Now, the beginning of it felt very Snydery to me, which was good. I don't think we talked about Batfleck enough for that scene, but
True.
the way they panned that scene with him getting dragged on the bridge, that cinematography to me was better than most of what I've seen out of the Pattinson Batman movie. That was beautiful. And I thought, man, this is what I'm missing. Like, shit like that. It looks like a comic book panel and different angles, and he's scraping, and then he's beating the shit, throwing motherfuckers out of the Humvee.
And the suit is blue and gray.
Yeah, gorgeous. Hot Toys line 3, right? So, so I just wanted to give a little nod to Batfleck because that scene was great. I love the guy just jumped out of the Humvee, Batfleck be punching motherfuckers through the ground. So, it was good to see him, bashing the shit out of. I was into, when you go to a movie, the one thing you hope for is to be entertained throughout it all. You don't want to have a moment where you're a little bored. And I wasn't bored during this movie. I don't give a fuck about CGI. I was a little kid in the 80s watching 80s movies, so my range of CGI criticism is shot. Like, I don't give a fuck, you know what I mean? I don't really give a fuck about it. I could see where it looked like shit, but I don't give a fuck. Like, there was more Keaton screen time than I thought there was gonna be. So that was really good. So I kind of rank it in two different movies because for me the Keaton part was like, man, just to see him again, that was crazy. The first fight scene, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching this. This is like he holds the record for longest running live action Batman. It's real, you gotta think about that one. He holds the title for never quitting. But so the Keaton bits, it really hit me hard though, because that line where he's Barry was like, I could bring you back, and Keaton was like, you already did, kid. You already did. So what that said to me was they brought Keaton back one last time for all of us to see, and it was good enough. Like to get this, I really appreciate it, and it looked fantastic. So I'm gonna rank. You know what? I'll rank the Keaton. If you just chop up the Keaton parts for me,
the Keaton cut,
man, that was flawless. That was a 10 out of 10 because the suit. You know what's so great about Keaton? The way that motherfucker talks, man. Yo, when that guy talks, like, that's the best live action Batman when he speaks. It's just something about him. He's just a cool ass fucking guy. Where else,
dude? How about when we were talking before, and I think they showed in the trailer, but you were saying like when Ezra Miller's like, "What do we do now?" He's like, "We have to just stay alive,
try not to die."
Right? Like,
yo, you have to.
One-liner is just like, do it.
You have to think this guy came out in '89, biggest game changer, and now we're seeing him fight Snyderverse Kryptonians. Okay. So the Keaton bit, 10 out of 10. Now if we're gonna just go as a whole movie in general, it's man, I don't know, man. Surprisingly enough, I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10, man.
That's solid.
Wow.
The acting was really good. Everyone acted really well, and the story wasn't boring. I don't give CGI. You could take points off of CGI. You could take points off of plot holes or whatever. But the whole point of going to the movies and eating popcorn is to be entertained, and I found it very entertaining. Ezra Miller does have really good acting chops, but I feel like his personal life really hurt the financial potential of this movie. It's funny because I think the way this movie's gonna make any money is because of Keaton. I have a friend, and he goes, "Man, motherfuckers don't care if Ezra Miller smack a bitch, throw a motherfucker in the closet. They going to see Keaton and whatnot." So that's pretty much what happened. But I haven't really heard many people really speak down about this movie anyway. I feel like everyone enjoyed it for the most part. I did as well. I got enough Keaton time, and the fact that now on the ending note, I also treat this as a Keaton trilogy now because he has 3 movies. All right, so I consider this somewhat of an unofficial trilogy. Like, I mean, listen, man.
I agree with that.
You got a guy going up against Jack Nicholson in the late 80s, all the way to fucking swinging Kryptonian airships around with the Batwing. Yo, you can't tell me he ain't the GOAT. So I was happy that the Keaton parts were flawless, and I was happy that the movie as a whole was entertaining. The girl who played the Kryptonian, what's her name? The girl's like her Kryptonian name. What's a Kryptonian? Yeah,
Kara Zor-El.
Yeah, I think she was really good too. I think she did a great job fighting. Yeah, she had a lot of emotion in her face.
She didn't hold back, did she?
Yeah, she had that Kryptonian rage, especially once she found out that Clark was.
Yeah.
The child, the infant, did not survive. Yeah.
So I can't imagine. And I'll tell you another thing too. When this shit hits Max, that shit's gonna do big numbers because every motherfucker who said, "Oh, I ain't gonna go see the movie this spoilers," they're gonna be sitting their ass home watching it with the door locked. All right, so yeah, I'm happy I enjoyed it, and it was great to see the GOAT again. It was great to see the GOAT. So, yeah.
Gramps, out of 10, what you got?
Well, every point of my ranking is there because of Gal Gadot.
2 points.
No, like all of you said, we go to the theater to see the heroes that we read about on the pages of comics come to life and be entertained. And it's great to be able to just turn your brain off to the outside world and just be in the moment. You don't have to worry about your phone, or you don't have to worry about who said what or did what. You can just focus on the story. And this story totally pulled me in. Yeah, I mean, there's some visuals with, CGI, but hearing that explanation from the, what's the director's name?
Andrew Machete.
Andrew Spaghetti.
Machete. Yes.
Oh God.
Andrew Spaghetti.
That makes a little bit more sense. I can live with that. So out of 10 Maple Bar donuts,
yeah,
I'll go with and that's with the Bavarian cream.
Oh shit.
Damn.
I'll go with the solid 7, meaning that I want to go see this again.
Holy shit.
And it's got, you could rewatch it over and over and find something new that you didn't notice before. Keaton was very entertaining, although I didn't really like some of his cheesy dialogues, that they kind of reference 89 a little bit too much, but you know what? That's forgivable because he gave us one of the best Batman fight scenes ever.
Mm-hmm.
When that, I don't know how many people he killed in that scene. Affleck killed a couple of guys too, so I had the death count around 10.
Those dudes were not surviving.
No, they weren't surviving. Carr killed a few too. That was pretty cool. Yeah, solid 7.
So
Very
I
nice.
take it then that everyone's advice is to watch the movie.
Yeah.
You need to watch the movie because, again, like what Dunks Likes Brown Eyes said, is that
Now
it's a trilogy with Keaton.
Now, if I watch this movie in a couple days and I find out that you motherfuckers lied about everything you just said happened in this movie,
the ending climatic scene where Flash is in the Flash bubble is worth it. Just
The Chrono Bowl.
whatever that is.
I was
Just like, it was like
Yeah.
the
The Speed Force. Right?
I was like, why is he not running? Shouldn't he be still running?
He's running backwards at some point. Well, because he slides and he stops, so it stops everything.
Hey, I thought that Christopher Reeves
that was
cool.
cool.
I thought that was a rumor, but then when we saw him, it was like, wow.
Yeah,
that made me tear up a little bit. And it kind of shows you, we all have things in our lives that we'd love to go back and change, and it kind of answers that question. What if I could change this? What if I could change that? What would my life be like? And it has a very more. What's the word I'm looking for? The moral of the story is, you can't change the past,
Can't change
but you can grow from it and help your past, make you the person that you are in the future. So,
or that Batman's always right because he was right in the beginning.
Well, yeah, that's true.
The moral of the story: Batman's always right.
Always right. Yeah.
Which Batman, though?
There we go.
Well, Batfleck was the one who told him, Barry, you can't do it.
Dude,
destroy you.
What did you guys think of Affleck's performance? When he's Bruce, not Batman.
I was thinking to myself, this might be the best Bruce depiction of Bruce Wayne in cinema. To me, that's the best Bruce Wayne in my opinion.
You could tell he'd lost a lot of weight.
That's probably pre-J-Lo, but yeah, you're right.
That was filmed a long time ago. That was
that was filmed like during COVID.
Yeah, I think this movie had to be delayed. What was this movie like delayed 2 years?
2 years at least. Yeah.
It totally confirms why that Mezco didn't come out until this year, though.
Yeah,
perfect timing.
Had to hold it for to hype the movie.
Hey, anybody got a favorite Keaton scene or moment?
Just that fight scene. Just when he does that last roundhouse to that guy and kills him. It's just like
kills him.
He's just dead.
That whole scene, that whole time, it looks like he was just having a good time. And it was just like, all right, let me just put this little bomb over here.
What about the boomerang batarang?
Oh yeah. Well, the batarang is literally a batarang again. Yeah. Again, dude, the gimbal effect of the Batwing when he's in the cockpit and he's trying to shake off the Kryptonian giant.
Yeah.
And just when he's that's so great.
And
also the simple there's not enough of it, but the moments that are there, just when he's walking, dude. When he's got you know how he walks. The Keaton in the cowl walk. There's a couple of scenes where he's walking from point A to point B, and it's just that Keaton strut that our good friend Carl Newman perfected.
This movie could have been a 9 for me if we'd actually seen the Batmobile in action.
So don't even remind me.
Dude, I was thinking that the second he gets into the Batmobile, it becomes a Batman movie. And that's why they did that on purpose. That's why they were kind of giving us the blue balls, because he just looked at it, he's like, holy shit, like the second he's in the Batmobile, it is not a Flash movie.
I saw someone online too say, "The fuck's he gonna do in a Batmobile against Kryptonians?" It's like, oh, okay,
annihilate them.
Yeah.
My favorite scene was when he when they're going towards what was the country? Serbia, yeah. Where he just dips out and you see the Batwing in the moon and he's kind of just flying towards. That reminds me of that Alex Ross Detective Comics cover when he's kind of descending down for a second. That was just very cinematic to me and just very, very dynamic, And then all of a sudden they're just boom, they're on the ground just walking. And also that one scene where he's using the grapnel gun and the Flash jumps on him and he's looking at him what the fuck are you doing? He's like, all right, fine.
Yeah. He's fucking looking at him.
It was just so awkward. He was like a spider monkey on him. He's like, what do you know? Yeah,
another one that I love.
His shoulder or something,
After they get back from the Serbia mission, and he's stitching himself up as he looks at himself in the mirror.
That's another Alex Ross homage.
he looks up at the mirror and he looks at himself and he's almost got a little smile on his face.
Yeah, it's like he's enjoying
still
it.
got it, motherfucker.
Yeah, he's like, I'm back,
he's
bitches.
putting like a hook in his arm. He's like feeling himself like
He's back. Yeah.
Badass.
I didn't think they'd be able to handle him as well as they did. I can't complain, man. It could have gone a lot worse than that, and that was nice to see that. Like, okay, he came back. Was it for nostalgia? Yes, but they did a pretty good job with Keaton. I mean, it's everyone that I've talked to has said that like they loved all the Keaton bits, which is good. So it sounds like, Robin, based on all of that, would you say that this is are you more likely then to go out and see this in person?
Yeah, I think you guys have affirmed. I expected there to be some naysaying, but yeah, I didn't hear any.
I'm surprised at how positive we've been. Yeah,
it could have been a 10 if Vicky Vale had shown up in the Batcave as just one final,
Yeah. In a way, they had to really be careful to not make it a Batman movie. You're right. There's so many things they could have added that would have just been it's a Batman movie. But ladies and gentlemen, that is it. That wraps it up. I think that pleasantly surprised to hear that everyone, for the most part, gave it high ranks. Toxic Snyder Bro fandom aside, it seems like this is 31 years ago. We went to, I want to say it was either Taco Bell or McDonald's, and you got yourself a Keaton cup. Ooh. And then 31 years to the day, I came out and I got myself a Keaton cup from the theater. Insane. Ooh. So 31 years in the making. All right, Bat Force Radio, over and out.